Okay, we're back. We're live. We're a little bit late, but it's okay because well, technology, is a study in patience and flexibility, right, guys?
Of course, yeah.
That's Dan Masutomi, Director of Energy Technologies for Hawaii Telecom, and Grant Torigoe.
Torigoe.
And he is the network planner for Hawaii.
One of the network planners, yeah.
One of the, okay.
Yeah, we have a group.
Okay. I mean, I wish I
One
was-
of many, yeah.
And we're here to talk, we're here on ThinkTech Hawaii. We're here to talk about the cable. And the specific title of our show, which may not be entirely accurate, but we can work off that, is Connecting the World with TPC-1. So I guess I'd like to ask first, what is TPC-1, you guys, and why do we care?
Okay, well, TPC-1 stands for Trans-Pacific Cable 1, and it was basically the first trans-Pacific cable that linked Asia, Japan to North America, US. It was completed 50 years ago, 1964, and it really revolutionized submarine cable networks and really set the foundation for all modern submarine cables since that time. And, it was the pioneering effort that, is responsible for today's, global network.
Who did it?
It was a consortium of 3 companies. Hawaii Telecom was one of the companies, along with AT&T and KDDI out of Japan.
It was the first telecom cable across the Pacific?
It was the first trans-Pacific cable that linked Asia to
All
North
the way.
America.
Before that
Yeah.
was patchwork.
Before that was patchwork. Radio dominated
Oh, really?
the communications. It wasn't the first submarine cable. There have been cables before that, but it really modernized the way submarine cables are built.
What was, I love this stuff actually. What was the thing about TPC-1 that, was advanced technology at the time?
At the time, several things. One was the cable itself. It was a new type of cable. It was still pre-fiber days, but it was a coaxial cable that was specially built for submarine systems with a strong inner core and armorless, flexible cable that could be placed on the ocean floor. It was the first time that the academic world kind of merged with the business world in surveying the ocean floor and mapping out the path the cable would take, because there were major obstacles like the Mariana Trench that had to be crossed and geological formations under the ocean that had to be considered. And so really, is the first time that major surveys were done on a cable route on the ocean bottom. And then the whole ships that placed the cable were designed specifically to place undersea cables.
And that was also new. Those ships were a new design at the time.
New design. It was designed specifically to hold the cable, 2,000 miles of cable. It had special machinery that helped place the cable. Really laid the foundation for all future cables to come.
Yeah. Now you said on the ocean floor. I understood about the electric cable, which is a whole new thing. But maybe we learned something in TPC-1 that would teach us for the electric cable. Is it on the floor or is it just under the floor? In the electric cable, it was like supposed to be a foot or 18 inches below.
Yeah, for the most part, it's laid on the ocean floor. And today, when you place a new cable, there's certain areas of the ocean has to be underground, has to be under the reefs. Certain shipping lanes have to be buried so much feet under the ground. But 50 years ago, most of it was laid right on the floor.
Because they didn't know any better than that, and they were not thinking of all the multiple considerations we would think of today.
Correct. Yeah.
So, and I know modern day cable, and I want to talk to you about modern day cable. Modern day cable has electronics that will tell you where the problem is. So for example, you'll know it's mile 249 where something happened to it and you have to go out there and hook it and bring it up and fix it, or whatever you have to do, splice it. Does the old TPC-1 have that kind of electronics?
Yeah, interestingly enough, a lot of the monitoring equipment that was developed, was developed for cables like TPC-1 at 50 years ago to find out where the faults are and to isolate the problems. And this is the first, I think, modern cable that really put a lot of emphasis in the repeaters that went along the cable every 20 miles. And those were designed specifically to last 25 years, as well as do some of the fault monitoring that was required for the cable.
So we're at the tail end of a kind of celebration that Hawaiian Telecom has organized around this cable, the 50-year anniversary of the laying of the cable. So what is that, and what kind of a party did you have? And what's the significance of 50 years, and why did you have this commemorative celebration?
It was recognized as a IEEE milestone, and so I'll let kind of Grant go through some of that celebration that we just did.
Oh, okay. TPC-1 has been recognized as one of the IEEE milestones in technology. IEEE is the Institute of Electrical and Electronic Engineers.
Of which you are one.
I am a member, yes. I'm
Okay.
also the secretary of the Hawaii State Section.
All right,
So-
congratulations. This is good.
But they recognize major accomplishments all the way back to Ben Franklin's use of testing of electricity. Other milestones include the battery, LCD display, transistors, anything that's a major accomplishment in technology, specifically electrical related technology that helps further along the technology. And TPC-1 was the first cable to go from Hawaii undersea to Japan. And that was quite an accomplishment if you think you're running 6,200 feet of cable across the sea, across all these unknown regions under the water. And so they were IEEE felt it was appropriate to grant this award to Hawaiian Tel. And there was a similar celebration in Tokyo, same day.
Oh.
So, because they're one of their partners, and we had a ceremony at our office here on Bishop Street.
Another telecom company?
Yeah, because it was AT&T, it was Kokusai, Denshin, Denwa.
This is sort of your
National.
partner in the cable.
Yeah, and also AT&T, the three companies involved.
Yeah. Oh.
So they had a big celebration in Japan. We had a televised message from their president. And then we had a plaque unveiling, which is mounted at our building here in Honolulu.
Oh,
It's a really
okay,
nice-
up the street.
Yeah, right up the
Here
street.
on
It's a
Bishop
really
Street.
nice brass plaque.
And what does the plaque say?
Oh, I think it's along the lines of it recognizing that this is an accomplishment, and it explains what the cable is and when it was commissioned. And anybody can come down to the building and read it. It's right outside in the main lobby. It's a really nice plaque right next to our Technology Solutions Center.
I guess another part of this commemoration and dedication and party is that it still works.
The party?
No, TPC-1. Oh, the party, of course.
Well, TPC-1 is actually retired.
When you say retired, you
Yeah.
mean it's not used
yeah,
anymore?
It's not used
Yeah.
anymore. 1991, we put it out of commission, not because it didn't work
It
anymore.
worked through then anyway.
It worked through then,
Yeah.
plus 25 years, over quarter of a century. But modern technology took over with fiber optic submarine cables. A 128 channel copper cable wasn't needed anymore, with the bandwidth capacities that fiber was able to provide.
And Hawaiian Telecom was part of that initiative also. What's that called, TPC-2?
No, well, there was a TPC-2, there was a TPC-3. I mean, since TPC-1, there's been, many cables that have come since then, each getting better than the last.
Better means faster and more fault tolerant?
Faster, fault tolerant, and when you look at the technology, everything gets better. Even today's fiber, Hawaiian Tel is now part of a consortium building a brand new fiber cable from Southeast Asia to Guam, Hawaii, and then to California. We're using the most modern design fiber that's out there and available today.
Which is faster?
Which is faster, it'll carry more bandwidth,
Capacity.
and it has a lifetime of 25 years. So where we're putting 20 terabits of capacity in today, tomorrow will be 10 times that capacity.
This is really important for Hawaii, isn't it? It's not just Hawaiian Telecom. It's our connectivity with Asia, and thus our ability to connect Asia with the mainland.
Yeah, it is. And when you look at Southeast Asia, where this cable is going to, it's one of the fastest economic growing spots in the world today. It's 1.5 billion businesses and people in Southeast Asia. All of them are bandwidth hungry, they're internet savvy, they're very, when it comes to using the internet and integrate it into lives, they're very knowledgeable in this area, and it's a growing market. And what Hawaiian Tel saw was a lot of the new cables were bypassing Hawaii. Technology has gotten to the point where you can bypass Hawaii and you won't lose capacity. Hawaii used to be a key strategic hub before, especially during the times of TPC-1, where if you didn't land in Hawaii, you lost capacity on the system.
Same for transportation. You know, back in the day, Hawaii was the center of the Pacific, and coming and going, everybody stopped here. So the cable.
Very, very good analogy, yeah, very similar. And so Hawaiian Tel saw that happening. We said we got to get involved with one of the new cables, you know, that are being placed in Pacific, get involved and make sure that there's a Hawaii landing so that we're not isolated when it comes to the bandwidth growth.
Absolutely. We're with you 100%. It's really good that you guys did that. As I said, not only for you, but for the whole state. We have to remain relevant, and we have to avoid isolation at any expense.
And it also provides, I guess, some kind of redundancy. The more cables we can bring to Hawaii to supplement whatever we have coming through already.
Yeah, so we get a better deal. I want to go to that right after this break. To my left is Dan Masutomi, Director of Energy Emerging Technologies, and Grant Torigoe,
Torigoe,
who is the network planner.
Yeah.
One of the network. I gotta
yeah.
get it right. Yeah. For Hawaiian Telecom, both. And this is where we're connecting the world with TPC-1 and others. Okay, I'm changing the title of the show here on ThinkTech Hawaii. We will be right back.
Aloha, my name is Josh Green. I host a show called Healthcare in Hawaii here on ThinkTech. We get together once a week or sometimes twice a month. Depends. When we're busy, we get together less often, but we love to see you here to talk about the preeminent healthcare issues in our state. Our programs vary very widely. We talk about economics, we talk about healthcare, we talk about social issues on this program. Thanks for joining us.
Mahalo for watching ThinkTech Hawaii. We are a channel dedicated to raising public awareness about the importance of technology, energy, diversification, and globalism to the future of Hawaii. We broadcast and stream daily from 1 to 5 every weekday, and we broadcast on Olelo 54 and OC16 TV. All of our shows are archived on thinktechhawaii.com, and we hope to see you there. Aloha.
Okay, we're back. We're live. We're having a very interesting discussion with Dan Masutomi and Grant Torigoe. And Grant is the network planner for Hawaiian Telecom, and Dan is the energy director of energy technology.
Emerging technologies.
My handwriting is the problem. Director of emerging technologies for Hawaiian Telecom, and we're here to talk about a recent celebration they had commemorating the 50th anniversary of TPC-1, which is the Trans-Pacific Cable #1, established in 1964. God, I was 22 at the time. How old were you? Never mind.
I was 1 year away from being born.
Okay. Anyway, there's the year of the New York World's Fair, 1964. It was quite a year. And Vietnam was just ramping up. I was finishing my law degree. It was a long time ago. Anyway, so we talked before about how, Hawaii has had a kind of an interesting position on Asia-Pacific cables, and which are so critical in the world today, for business, for everything, to communicate. I mean, communication is the mother of love, I would say that. So we have to connect the two countries, the two continents, and you guys are there at the connection point. And we served that purpose, you know, for a long time. But I guess after the, what did you call it, the retirement of TPC-1, 1991, what happened? Because I remember in the late 90s, everybody said, oh, Hawaii has got tremendous advantage. We are as fast as anywhere in the world. We have as much capacity. I don't know if it's true or not, but that's what people said. We have great capacity here. We are, you know, poised for the development of a tech industry because we have this relatively good capacity. But somewhere in that decade thereafter, seemed like we were being bypassed. That was just the talk. So what happened really?
Yeah, it actually, Hawaii probably enjoyed that status of being a key hub probably all the way through 2000, 2001. There was many new cables being planned right around the turn of the century, and the last major cables to land in Hawaii during that time was Japan-US cable and the Southern Cross cable network, right around 2000.
Southern Cross was in the 90s, yeah?
Right around 2000.
Okay.
2000, 2001. And then we saw kind of a drought until 2008, and then the Asian America Gateway cable was placed and landed in Hawaii. And then there was another drought, and we started talking to the different cable consortiums planning to build cables. And then we realized at that point from 2008 on, really no one was considering landing in Hawaii. And really it started back in 2001 when Southern Cross was placed. Since that time, only one cable landed in Hawaii and no one else was looking at landing in Hawaii. Not because Hawaii wasn't important place in anybody's mind. It's just the technology just kept getting better and better, where landing in Hawaii no longer made sense for them.
It's an economic question ultimately. I mean, Hawaii is a relatively small market with the mainland, you know, North America, South America, what have you. So if we were not important economically to give another consortium for another cable enough business, then they were going to go around us.
They were going to go around us. And so you bring up a good point. So there's two things you can do. One is you can make Hawaii more important and give people a reason for landing here, and that's more business driven. Or, you know, you need companies getting involved to actually make it happen, like Hawaii Tel did.
Yeah, well, I think that's admirable that you did that. I mean, as I said, for a number of reasons. And so you were going to take this new technology, even though arguably this new technology could jump over us, and you were going to get them to lay a cable here. And so I guess the question is, what are the economics of that? Because now you have a consortium. Undoubtedly, the cables that went in after 1991 were much more expensive than the one, if I'm wrong, tell me, than the one that went in 1964, just by virtue of the change in the value of the dollar.
Well, relatively speaking, it's probably cheaper today.
Really?
The
modern technology.
TPC-1 cost 83 million to place back in 1964. Our newest cable, the Southeast Asia US cable that we're part of, will be about 250 million. So yeah, it's more expensive, but in today's dollar, with the amount of bandwidth that you're getting.
Yeah, the payload is huge.
Yeah,
multiples huge.
Yeah. So and that's how we measure it.
Yeah.
128 channels for 83 million back in 64, and 20 terabytes of bandwidth for 250 million.
See, it pays to live as long as you can to enjoy the technology.
Yeah.
Okay, so now, do we need another one? Is this really, at the heart of this discussion, that Hawaii Telecom and Hawaii, they need more cables? We need more cables.
The more cables we can attract and land in Hawaii, the better off we'll be. It's really a complex mesh network out there globally that we need to be part of. And having just one or two cables land in Hawaii probably doesn't give us enough redundancy that we need as our bandwidth requirements increase.
I remember I remember learning about mesh technology, you mean, and it's all about fault tolerance, because if you have multiple cables and one fails, you just move it to another cable. I mean, it's automatic, it's instantaneous. And so the more cables that land here, the safer we are against any kind of failure.
Safer we are, and people don't realize that these cables do fail, and it's well beyond, you know, an operator's control. You know, the Japan earthquake took out a whole bunch of fiber cables coming across the Pacific to the West Coast. The AAG cable that I mentioned earlier, just 2 weeks ago, lost service between Singapore and another destination on their route, and was out for 1 to 2 weeks.
But that's not too bad, 1 or 2 weeks.
But in today's time, businesses, you know,
of
those
course.
seconds.
But you figure they got to find out where it is. They got to get some, you know, equipment out there, deploy the equipment. They've got to do the work. They got to make sure the work is working, and you know, and put it online again. I'm reminded of the early hurricane warning system, which is throughout the Pacific. No, not hurricane. Tsunami. Thank you. Yeah. And you know, there are sensors in various places. And there were sensors that broke somewhere up in the Aleutians, which is an important place to determine what's going on with tsunamis. And they haven't been fixed yet. You know, years already, they haven't been fixed yet. So it really requires some will, some money, some, you know, the troops, so to speak, to go out there and do it. And that's really critical. And I suppose with a trans-Pacific telecom cable, you have those resources available. So
you have those resources. It's built into the whole project and the whole cost of the project and the whole business case of the project. Because you're right, I mean, just for a repair ship to leave the dock is already costing millions of dollars. And to go out, find the cable, repair it, and then come back to port. I mean,
this is very exciting, actually, I must say. And I always feel that, you know, see if you agree, that a community, a society which has faster broadband is going to be a more economically successful community.
Oh, yeah.
It's easy as pie to know that.
It's absolutely true, yeah. And one thing that that the world is hungry for, and especially Southeast Asia, where we're targeting our cable to land, is content. They all want content, and all the content that they want right now resides in California. And so that's why the traffic going to California keeps increasing exponentially. And now if we can somehow get that content here in the islands, and they don't have to go all the way to California, then, you know, we start becoming more relevant.
So we could be another California in terms of providing content. But Marshall McLuhan said the media is the message, and we say the cable is the content. Or maybe it's the content is the cable. Anyway, well, then we have a movie industry, we have all these young, bright-eyed kids who are creative, you know, the millennium generation. We have to let them know about this, that they have options, and they can feed Asia with valuable content. That would be a great business for Hawaii. Also, the tech industry, such as it is, you know, I mean, there are some companies, not many, but you probably, you know, can tell me more, that are located here, maybe a Manoa Innovation Center or otherwise, wherever Manoa Innovation Center winds up, wherever that happens, that are global. They may be small, but they talk to people all over the world every day. And they transmit their work, and they do their meetings, and you can't do that without fast broadband. And if you have fast broadband, you can do that. You become a headquarters unit right here, and you can participate in global thinking. And this is, to me, this is going to keep Hawaii alive.
It should, yeah.
So query then, you know, do we need another one? What efforts are being made? You know, you want to get into another consortium, it must be very expensive. It must be hard to negotiate, especially if you're a leader. You know, if you're the one who says, this is what we want to do.
Yeah, we haven't taken the leadership role of, you know, of initiating a cable yet, but we do talk to all the cables that are being considered for builds across the Pacific. And we're in discussions with a number of cables now one from South America, another one from Australia, just to see where they are in their progress of their cable project and how we may fit into those plans.
So I'd like to ask you, we can take a short break, but I'd like to ask you after we come back what the challenges are for you in this. I mean, how important is it for you to do this? What are you going to find, obstacles, if any? How are you going to solve those problems? How are you going to give us the kind of cable that will not only be as good as the rest of the world, but better? Okay? How about that for a question?
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to come right back. It's Dan Masutomi, Director of Emerging Technology at Hawaii Telecom, and Grant Torigoe.
Torigoe. T.
Oh, T.
Torigoe.
Oh, it's my ears. Torigoe. And he's the Network Planner at Hawaii Telecom. This is ThinkTech Hawaii. We're talking about connecting the world through TPC-1 and its a progeny, if you will. We'll be right back.
Aloha, my name is Kenneth Lawson. I'm your host here at Life in the Law. I'm really interested in law as I practiced it for 18 years before coming to Hawaii. I practiced criminal law and civil rights law on the mainland. Now I teach law at the University of Hawaii Law School, William S. Richardson School of Law. And I bring in guests who are very current on legal issues that affect your life here in Hawaii. Come and join me every Wednesday at 1 p.m. as we explore how the law affects you, how the law is changing, and why it's important that you should care about what's going on in your community. See you then.
Mahalo for watching ThinkTech Hawaii. We are a channel dedicated to raising public awareness about the importance of technology, energy, diversification, and globalism to the future of Hawaii. We broadcast and stream daily from 1 to 5 every weekday, and we broadcast on Olelo 54 and OC16 TV. All of our shows are archived on thinktechhawaii.com, and we hope to see you there. Aloha.
Aloha, this is Martin Despang, co-host of the Urban Transcendence Show by Alejandra Yamashita and Martin Despang. And me being an architect and an educator in architecture, I'm really interested in that we make our urban environment here in downtown Honolulu as exciting, invigorating, and challengingly beautiful as our wonderful paradise natural environment. We're going to bring in guests from a diversity of areas that help us to learn how we can achieve that goal that shouldn't be that hard to reach. So we look very much forward to see you then. Thank you.
Aloha, hello. My name is Hong Jiang, and I host ThinkTech Asia every Tuesday afternoon at 4 p.m. At our show, we talk about issues that are important in Asia, such as environment, culture, history, religion. We broadcast live, and we're also on Olelo 54. Make sure to tune in, and we'll see you there. Thank you. Goodbye.
Okay, we're back. We're live. We're here with Dan Masutomi, the Director of Emerging Technology at Hawaii Telecom, and Grant Torigoe, who is the Network Planner at Hawaii Telecom. Here on ThinkTech Hawaii, we're talking about connecting the world through TPC-1 and its progeny. So, I wanted to ask you a long question, about how we're going to, keep up where Hawaiian Telecom is in that area of development. What do you see for the future in terms of Hawaii making Hawaii as fast or faster than anywhere else?
Okay. So yeah, Hawaiian Tel is doing several things in that area. One, we're really trying to market ourselves as a strong cable landing party provider here in Hawaii. So if you want to land a cable here in Hawaii, you have a place to land it, a cable landing station to land it. We already manage a couple of international cable landings in our network that we provide services to other consortiums for. We want to expand that and we want to make it easier. We also want to work with the state in making the permitting process and the approval process for landing these cables a lot easier.
Yay!
Because, that's one of the problems that California has. Everybody wants to land in California because that's where the content is at. But the approval process in California is at least a 2-year process. Oregon,
Why? Environmental issues?
environmental issues. The state land use commission has to get involved, and there's a whole approval process that you have to go through.
You know, it would be easier if there was one agency.
There
It's
is
never one
there
agency.
is not one agency, and there's many different environmental groups that you have to go through.
Yeah.
Oregon set up a process where you can get it approved in less than a year. So they started getting cables to land in
Interesting.
Oregon.
So if you have a good process, it draws the cables.
It draws the cables.
the,
At least it's not a hindrance to the cables being placed.
Yeah. Oh, that's an important point.
Yeah. And you know, Hawaii needs to kind of examine and look to see, you know, what it can do to streamline our approval process to attract more cables. And then, you know, and then a lot of these consortiums will need partners to land in Hawaii, to make the economics work to land in Hawaii. So whether it's Hawaii Telecom or some other telecom providers, you know, they're going to expect investment in those cable systems in order to land here.
Well, you know, I'm thinking that this is a business. We're talking about a business. You invest hundreds of millions in a cable, or your share of that, whatever the you know, arrangement is, and you have to get a return for the investment, and you have to get your investment back ultimately. And so that's complex. And I wonder if you could explain for our listeners how it works. So Hawaiian Telecom now is a member of the, what do you call it?
The CUS Cable Consortium.
The consortium. And it has rights as an owner of the cable, essentially.
Yeah.
And that means that if I'm getting my broadband over that cable, I have to pay you for your investment.
Correct.
So that way
we're allocated a certain amount of bandwidth based on our investment.
Yeah.
We in
sell the
turn
bandwidth.
sell that bandwidth.
You sell it to, well, I imagine you sell it to Oceanic because they need it.
Yeah, any wholesale carrier customer is a prime candidate and who purchases most of our bandwidth.
If I'm a big company, I can't think of how big it would be, but if I'm a big company, I could come to you, you know, and I could say, Dan, I'd like to buy some bandwidth on your queue. You would sell it to me.
I would sell it to you, yeah. In fact, when you look at most of the companies buying bandwidth, Hawaiian Tel buys bandwidth in the Trans-Pacific arena, Oceanic does, Verizon, AT&T, all the international telecom companies, Globe Telecom, who's our partner in our consortium, has a lot of cables that they own. Telin from Indonesia is another partner of ours that owns a lot of cables. In today's market, you pretty much have to buy capacity to get out of your area.
Yeah, so you're buying an amount of bandwidth or a certain amount of capacity, and with the idea that you're going to have to use it to justify what you're paying for it. So each person is kind of a reseller. Each person hopes that they can get his investment back.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And the fortunate thing about our cable system is our partners are major telecom providers who have their own internal needs to build the cable. There's many other cables that are just purely built off of sales, and if they get enough investors, they build the cable. If not, the cables are never built.
How can I invest in a cable? Can I invest in a cable?
Sure, you wanna invest in our cable?
I can buy some stock in the company. But I mean, can I invest in a consortium, or is that just my only way to invest in a cable is to invest in the members of the consortium?
No, you know, what's interesting in this market, before it used to only be telecom companies that you saw invested in these cable systems. That's not the case anymore. Google now is a major investor in cables. Facebook is a major investor in cables. Twitter's looking at purchasing cables. Microsoft is looking at investing in these cables. So the normal telecom providers now are just one part of the investment.
Interesting. And that means that you have a lot of people who would like to move really fast, and you have to watch what they do. So let me ask you, Grant, what's the technology coming down the road here? What have we learned since 1964 about how to make really fast cables, and what have we learned about integrating them, landing them, integrating them into the system? I'm sure you work with that. No?
No, not too much. That's
Well, from your vantage, how
Uh,
does it look going forward?
Well, let's talk about TPC-1. It was a coax cable. Coax cables are great for carrying a certain amount of bandwidth on them. We always challenge with distance, and coax is electrical cables. You're sending electrical signals over it, and it can only go so far without having to repeat the signal and regenerate it. Whereas fiber can go much farther. You can put more bandwidth on a fiber cable. So that's kind of why we transitioned over from coaxial cable to fiber cable for this long haul cables.
Yeah. I saw you in my neighborhood for months.
Oh,
You
really?
changed everything out.
Are you on fiber now?
I don't know if I am. I'm happy though. So, but you know, you guys have made a substantial investment on the land side of this. In other words, you get the capacity from the cable, and now you have to deliver it and market it, and you know, put everybody on your system. So that's why I saw your trucks every day.
Yeah, that's part of the reason why. I think that, you know, it's nowadays everybody uses their smartphones. They're invested in data. They're on the internet, and they use their wireless phones to call the mainland or call wherever they're calling to. And I guess it's important to remember that as an island community, we have to stay connected, and all this wireless data and all the internet data goes somewhere, and it goes on something to where it's going to go, and we have to make sure that stays intact. And that's one of the benefits of bringing in more cables. We have redundancy, we can put more bandwidth out there, and bandwidth is just being consumed. It's just growing because people are just using it for video nowadays instead of just pictures. When I started using the internet, it was just, you know, typing text back in the early 90s, so it didn't need a lot of bandwidth. But now when you're streaming video from a content provider, you're going to need the bandwidth. And even to bring content down to the islands for the programming, so we store it locally so we can redistribute it, that also takes bandwidth. So it's important to know that the improvement from a coax cable to our fiber cable to, I guess, eventually evolve to a wireless system whenever that happens. But right now, it's important that we maintain the fiber optic undersea connection to the world.
Yes. Well, one other thing is if the landings, and I know enough not to ask you exactly where they are. We're not going to go public with that. But it's one thing that the cable is landed, say, here on Oahu. But then you've got to get it to the neighbor islands. What consortium does that? Is that part of the same deal? Or is that a Hawaiian Telecom project?
It's Hawaiian Telecom. You know, the inter-island cables, there's 3 major cables. HICS, which was the first one, the Hawaiian Inter-Island Cable System. That was put in by Hawaiian Telecom. There's HIFIN, the Hawaii Fiber Optic.
These are all fiber
Inter-Island
optic
Network.
now.
Yeah, that was built by Oceanic and Wavecom at the time, who had since been acquired by Hawaiian Telecom. So that cable is owned by both Oceanic and Hawaiian Telecom, or Time Warner and Hawaiian Telecom. And then the Paniolo cable, which was put in by Sandwich Isles. So we do have some redundancy in the inter-island network. You know, it's probably something we got to keep an eye on and continue to build out as our cables get older and as the bandwidth needs increase.
You know, in the middle, I wouldn't say it was the beginning and I wouldn't say it was the end, but in the middle of the Abercrombie administration, we had the Broadband Initiative. And he was out there directly and indirectly through his departments trying to get everyone to get on board for more cable, faster cable, for more broadband, faster broadband, have providers provide more, I guess. I'm not sure if he was, you know, advocating for cheaper prices. I don't think I heard that. But he was interested in having it out there where every community in the state was serviced somehow. What happened with that? I mean, did that have an effect? Is it still in play? How does it relate to what we've been talking about?
I think it's still a goal of the state government to expand broadband like many other states that we see. And it's always been a goal of Hawaiian Telecom. So, you know, we've been doing fiber to the prem for a number of years, even maybe 2 or 3 years before Abercrombie came out with his broadband plan. We just decided to put it on steroids and accelerate it and expand it, throughout the whole island as quickly and as robust as possible. So, now we're at 500 megs that we can offer per customer. Governor's goal was 1 gig per household. I think we're well on that path, where we tie it more to market need as far as deployments to that type of speed, but the infrastructure is there. I mean, it's in place, and it's just a matter of what type of speeds we want to offer to our customers.
We're one of your customers,
Oh, wonderful.
You're speaking on Hawaii Telecom fiber right now.
I'm glad to hear it.
We have 100.
Oh,
100
meg?
100 megs.
Yeah.
So
You can go
we
up to
want more.
You can go up to 500.
We're a nonprofit. We got to talk.
Yeah, I'm engineering. You got to talk to sales.
Okay. Then tell me who. So what do you? Just a minute more we have, but what do you see the future here? I mean, are you going to be able to do what you want to do, both on an engineering level, on a serving the state technologically level, and on getting enough fiber in here? Give me a 10-year possibility, and build in the assumption that in that 10 years, everybody in the world is going to be wanting the content, and we will all be living on these wires. I mean, Hawaiian Telecom has found this out. I mean, you're no longer copper. You can't do copper. You have to do this, and the world is completely dedicated to it now. We found out since about 1995, and now we're in it, and you're in it. So, what's your expectation?
Well, I think the demand will be there in Hawaii. I mean, when we look at our customers, their bandwidth needs grow by 2.5% to 3.5% every month. That means everybody's bandwidth requirements doubles every couple of years. So that's exponential growth in bandwidth. So there'll be demand, but I think Hawaiian Tel won't be able to do it alone. I think it's going to take partnerships with other companies, perhaps our competitors like Oceanic, perhaps the state government or other entities that are interested in making Hawaii relevant in this broadband network that feeds the world. Certainly we'll continue to take care of our needs, but to make Hawaii truly relevant in this space, I think it's going to take a partnership.
And it's going to take public awareness, It's
going to take public
otherwise, you fall into that thing about the public assumes it'll always work, and they don't have to do anything, and they're not a party to it, but they are a party, and they have to want it and support it, including the legislature and everyone in government.
Yeah, and then I mentioned earlier that a couple of the major cables were placed in 2000, 2001. These cable systems typically have a 20 to 25 year lifespan. So half of that time is gone already. So in the next 10 years that you mentioned, some of our major cables that do feed Hawaii today will no longer be in service. So what are we going to do? We're going to just rely on one cable to CUS that Hawaiian Tel is working on now, or we're going to encourage more cables to land here.
Yeah. Well, we need more cables going forward for sure, and it becomes an important part. We also need more parties.
We love parties.
I want to close with a video that we have of your celebration, and why don't we play that now, and then we can close after that.
Our company propelled Hawaii into the modern communication age when we partnered with AT&T and KDDI of Japan to engineer and construct the first of its kind cable system in the Pacific at a cost of $83 million. In 1964, the Trans-Pacific Cable 1, or we refer to it as TPC-1, was inaugurated by President Lyndon Johnson and Japan's Premier Hayato Ikeda. In addition to being a historic engineering feat, TPC-1 was a national project for both the US and Japan that really strengthened our relationship between both countries. TPC-1 greatly improved the quality of telecommunications between North America and Asia and ushered in a new era of global communications. At Hawaii Telecom, we're proud to continue this tradition today as broadband growth is rapidly accelerating, as you all know. 50 years after the first trans-Pacific cable was laid, we've joined with 6 international telecommunication companies to form the Southeast Asia U.S. Consortium to build and operate a new state-of-the-art trans-Pacific submarine fiber cable system connecting Indonesia, the Philippines, Guam, Hawaii, and California by the end of 2016. This cable system will have nearly 3 million times the capacity of TPC-1. This significant investment underscores Hawaii Telecom's commitment to Hawaii and to ensuring that we expand and improve communications for the people and businesses not only of our state, but globally as well.
I'm very happy to share this wonderful day with my friends in Hawaii, Mr. Eric Yeman, the CEO of Hawaiian Telecom, the delegates from both IEEE and AT&T, and all attendees at the ceremony in Honolulu.
Today is really a recognition of our 50th anniversary of the Trans-Pacific cable system that was built between Hawaii Telecom, predecessor company AT&T, and KDDI of Japan. And it really was very significant because it allowed communication to really expand between the US and Asia and really strengthen our relationship between our two countries. And so for us, it's very significant to be recognized by the IEEE for this
The whole
milestone.
thing is your baby. Okay, we're back, we're live. We're here to close now with Dan Masutomi, the Director of Emerging Technologies at Hawaii Telecom, and Grant Torigoe, who is one of the network planners over there, okay? Talking about the cable, which, I mean, I've learned a lot here today, and I've learned that it's critical, you know, to any telecom company, especially you guys. It puts you in the forefront, keeps you in the forefront. And it's very important for you and for the community to have it there working well. So it's appropriate to celebrate the technology. Now I understand more about what you did a week or two ago. So we're talking about connecting the world with TPC-1 and its progeny. And I wondered if you had anything you wanted to tell the public that we haven't covered. Let's start with you, Grant. Tell them something really technical. Use technical words, that always helps.
I don't know, megahertz, gigahertz, gigabyte. Because nowadays, it's just amazing what we can do in our hands. We have the smartphones, we have connectivity, we're data hungry, we're streaming videos, and that's all. It's growing. It's keeping us connected, and I think it's important to keep in mind that even though we don't really need to technically know how these things work, that they are connected some way. And the connection, whatever we can do to keep the connection growing and going is important. And how we connect to our houses, to our providers, how the providers connect to each other, how they connect to the world. It's it's not something that you have to know in detail, but it's something to be aware of. And always keep looking for more bandwidth, I guess.
Yeah. Oh, there'll be more and more demand. I was just thinking, the Internet of Things.
Yes.
Which theoretically means everything is, you reminded me of that, everything is connected to everything.
That's correct.
And in a funny way, that is directly related to the smart grid, where every house and conceivably every appliance in every house is connected, and it's all on this bandwidth, it's all there. So it's critical to everything we do, and will become much more critical. I feel we have to have more shows like this so we can explore this. So let's close with you, Dan Masutomi. He's the Director of Emerging Technologies at Hawaii Telecom. Given everything we've talked about and stuff we haven't talked about, what would you like them to know?
Well, I'd just like to thank you for the opportunity to come down here and talk about TPC-1. It was a major achievement for Hawaii Telecom. 50 years ago, it showed our commitment at the time to Hawaii and to the network. And 50 years later, our investment in CUS cable just reemphasizes and reflects our commitment to not only our network, but to the people and businesses in Hawaii, because we want to stay connected to the world. We want to stay relevant in this worldwide market and in this worldwide network. And the more we can bring additional cables and support programs like this, I think Hawaii will stay relevant and will stay.
We're with you. Good for you. Staying the course, expanding as the world expands, keeping the community connected. That's wonderful. Thanks for coming down.
No, thank you.
Really
It's a
appreciate
pleasure.
it. Dan Masutomi and Grant
Torigoe.
Torigoe. I got it.
Thank you.
I got it. Aloha, you guys.